Hi, everyone. It's time in our program to really think seriously about interviewing and what you will need to do to be able to communicate what you're able to do to an interviewer and successfully uh, get that first job offer or internship. One of the things that I know is real common in the software development field is the technical interview. And that is something where you actually will be writing code in real time in front of another person and solving a problem, writing code to solve that. So it does sound daunting. It is a little bit nerve wracking to be put on the spot like that, but it is part of the process. And so we wanted to give you a little bit of guidance about what to expect and uh, so tell you like how you can practice and to feel confident about how you might do in that situation. So I we found a really right in searching around found a really good interview question. Actually, this was sent to one of our participants. I think as Google Recruiter was sent this video to a participant. Google wants everyone to be prepared for these, and they do help people actually prepare for their own interview process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to this video in the description down below. But I'll play a little bit of it here in line, so because I'll have some additional comments. It's a very good video, and it covers uh, what I would say would be a pretty typical interview question. It lasts about maybe 20. I see 24 minutes on this. So if you if you when you're interviewing, you might be interviewing someone with one sorry about that, any one person for like an hour, and the uh, the scope of the interview, though, that the actual technical problem might actually only take 20 to 30 minutes of that time. So let's watch a little bit of the start of this. I'll have some comments, but you can go and watch this video on your own, and either well, you can watch this video that I'm sending you right now. But you probably get more out of it if you watch the whole interview question first. So this would be a good time to do that, and then I'll come back and I just have a few more comments about it here. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, and in that first part of the interview, Edgar's really trying to figure out what does the question really mean. He's starting to think about um, what she's asking of him, and that is a very important part of clarifying that you know what the question is being asked, and he's kind of working out in his mind now like how he would solve this. So why does Google ask questions like this? I think part of it is a little bit of just problem solving, know that you're kind of comfortable working with simple data structures like arrays, maybe linked lists or other kind of data structures like that. And you'll see that Edgar uses some more advanced algorithms and data structures later. But everything up to about like 11 minutes in this video, or 11 and a half minutes, I think is fairly straightforward. And what I like is that he is very comfortable with like writing code.
Case, if it's
Let me
sorted,
advance
then I can
through
just
this a
do
little bit more.
binary search.
Um, oh, sorry, let's see. I think there's the case where he actually starts to write code. Here we go.
Okay, so like I said,
So notice here the interviewer is wanting to see some code. He's writing, looks like pretty correct in his case, C++ code. But the interviewer really isn't checking like real detailed syntax. If he were to miss a semicolon or something like that, they would not care about that. And so don't get freaked out that you're not in an IDE. You're not getting hints on syntax errors in your code. As long as the interviewer can understand what you're doing, he's got some complicated kind of typecasts in here, or he's using advanced features of C++ like templates and stuff like that. That's part of the language. So so he is using that, and I think the interviewer likes to see that he's comfortable with those features of the language. So You will be expected to be able to just do this off the cuff for whatever programming language you are interviewing with.
I want sort of an int, my low, which is 0.
So I won't get into like the details of the code, but he
Which
wrote
would be like the same as.
he wrote like a working solution that it wasn't like particularly the best solution. But for the case where she told him that the array would be sorted kind of initially, which makes the problem simpler. And so he was able to come up with a fast solution for a sorted list. And here's the point at 11 and a half minutes where she throws kind of a curveball in, and she says, well, what if it's not sorted? And that makes the problem quite a bit harder. And in my opinion, this is something where they are trying to see, are you able to think on your feet? So a lot of like thinking out loud, even if you're not sure what the solution is, if you have ideas that are that jog your memory to think about a particular approach, you can say those things out loud, and the interviewer actually will help you. Like if you're on the right track, they'll say something like, "Oh, that's interesting," like maybe you should consider that, or they might kind of steer you in the right direction, because nobody wants the interview process to be like a puzzle that is, if you don't have this aha moment, that you'll never get the solution. That is a bad interview question, in my opinion, and most of the bigger companies, try to train their developers not to ask questions with these aha things in them, unless they know how to hint you in the right direction. So he's about to kind of get hit with this kind of curveball here.
As the binary search as well.
But it's too slow for Google.
Okay, so you want faster than that. Okay.
But one of the things he does, you notice that he is very familiar. Up until this point, he's very familiar with being able to describe how the performance of his code works. Like he knows that this is a linear solution, so it has to read all the data, but it doesn't have to, read it, he calls it quadratic, like would be an n squared number of times, like O of n times n, O of n squared, terms like that. So knowledge of this kind of complexity, being able to describe the complexity, like the big O notation. I'll do another video on that as well, but that does come up in the interview, and the interviewer likes to see that the candidate knows how to analyze their code for performance, that it's not going to be, outrageously slow.
Okay.
Okay, I skipped forward to this point in the code where he has figured out an approach for solving this problem, even if the numbers are unordered. And here's where he was able to use his experience with kind of understanding how to build some algorithms and understanding data structures that are available to him, even without writing the more complex algorithms of a hash table. So he talks about a hash set and a hash table. So he knows that hashing is a mechanism for storing values and retrieving them in pretty much constant time. They don't take a lot of time to do those operations. So using that as a building block, he knows that he can go through this list, enter things into a hash table as he sees them, and then retrieve them later without it being very expensive. And so that gives him another linear time algorithm. I would comment also that he demonstrated that he's both aware of, some built-in things in the language. He uses a thing called a vector in C++. He uses a thing called an unordered set, and so he has these in his mind. So I think it demonstrates to the interviewer that this person has written a lot of code and has used these features of the language that are available to him in solving problems in the past, because he's familiar enough to recall them. Now, you will see later that he, or maybe even in this code, he was not sure what the name of this method is, so the comp.add. He said, I don't remember the name of this method. It's like an add or insert or something. I don't remember. And the interviewer doesn't really care, and you'll see that she says like, "Oh, it's whatever, yeah." But I know what you're talking about. So you should focus on the kind of the substance of what is going on in the the understanding, like what's available. Like in JavaScript, there are set functions, there are objects. You can use objects for hashing values and or storing and retrieving them. Knowing what the language can do and is important, but not you do not have to feel like you are going to be called on to remember exactly all the method names. That's what Google and Stack Overflow is for later. If you're using something that you haven't used recently, you can go look that up, but you understand how it works. Now, at the very end of this interview, I think, what is it, like the 20-minute mark?
Computer.
She does ask him to think about really large data sets. How does this algorithm, if it doesn't, all the data doesn't fit in memory at once, how are you going to deal with it? And that's a very kind of Google type of question, because Google does deal with very large data. They have millions of computers all working on various problems in search and other things like that. Having you be able to talk about how you would use multiple computers to scale these problems is a very kind of Google-centric thing. It doesn't apply, I think, in my opinion, to everyone, and just every programmer isn't dealing with large data sets like that. And she really just is testing whether he has some notion of how you would process data that doesn't all fit into memory at once. What are the issues with that? Can you use multiple computers together to solve this problem? And he kind of hand waves the solution, frankly. He doesn't write code. He just kind of hand waves, yeah, I think we can merge these data structures together from two different computers. He doesn't have all the answers, but that's kind of all she was looking for in this example. So just to be aware that in some cases people will be asking questions like this. So anyway, I hope you do get a chance to look at that, or you did get a chance to look at that Google sample interview, and hopefully these comments were also helpful in your practice. So the idea is this: definitely speak out loud. You have to understand some algorithms and data structures, but I would say like focusing on simple data structures, like here it was a list, and then he used a built-in data structure in the language, which was for him, it was in C++, it was a set, but there are similar data structures. You may or may not have to use them in other languages. And he was confident in writing code. He had no problems writing a function and working code on the whiteboard. Having that level of practice to do that without having to look up everything on Google is definitely a plus. And yeah, that's it. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. I'll talk to you later.